Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another week of the rebuild. It's Beth and Carmen here, and I'm back home. I'm not in Vancouver anymore. So we are back to our virtual recording and weekly moments, which I still think are some of my best hours of the week when I know that we have a recording session coming up. And today we are really building off, I think, the momentum that we saw from our last episode last week, as well as just the themes of what we keep seeing with workforce and women in the workforce and careers and pivots and rebuilds. And today we get to dive into our vision and our dream for what we always thought with this podcast and beyond. And so, as always, before we kind of dive into that piece, I'm just handing it over to you for a little hello and see how you're doing after our time together last week.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm doing really well. Last week was incredible. It was an amazing night that we hosted. It felt like the energy was just incredible in the room, that we were just able to be so open and honest. And what we heard was definitely that what we've been talking about on the podcast is really resonating with a lot of women. And it was really cool to see some of the rebuilds happening in the room too, like the projects that they're working on, the new jobs that they're going for, the promotions. Like I can just think three off the top of my head where it was like somebody's starting a new project, they're going after a new, they're working for a new company, or they're getting like just so many great examples. And so that was really exciting. I feel like we should have maybe recorded a couple of more episodes in the room like that. That was really fun.
Yeah.
But I do really like how we are just going, we're recording and posting as we go every week so that the content feels really fresh, because I
Yeah.
really want to make sure that we are capturing what people are talking about and what they need in the moment.
Yeah. I have to say, coming off of last week, I think I've told anyone who I've spoken to our dinner about last week that it was one of the best dinners we have ever hosted from a Femina
Yeah.
perspective. It was so great being able to work on kind of the pre-work with you. We really asked women to share their stories of bolds, like moments where they've taken just like big risks or they've made bold moves and it's really worked out for them. And I think the one thing that was just amazing to me during the dinner was that we left it open. I kind of just gave it over to the group and said, we want to hear what those stories are. And I had actually asked two people previous to the dinner, like, if this just totally falls like a lead balloon, will you actually share your story so we have conversation? And those two people didn't even end up speaking that night because people just
Mm.
stood up and shared their stories and shared some like pretty phenomenal moves that they made. And I think when you see that and when you see that level of security and safety and intimacy within a group to share those stories, it was just wonderful. And then I think the other little thing that I was so happy that we did was that I had made postcards for people to send little notes to themselves. And I collected all of them and they were all sent earlier this week. And I've been getting messages from women from the dinner being like, my postcard just arrived. I just got it. Like, what a great reminder from last week. Like, what a great moment to relive. And that is like sparking that little bit of joy and sparking that like positivity has been everything. So I was just so happy with last week and so happy with the conversations we were having. And I think you're very right. It spurred on our recording last week. We actually didn't know if we were going to put an episode out last week or not. And it just was like a spur of the moment. We have an hour. Let's go record and chat about what we're talking about. And that conversation, after we finished the actual recording, you and I actually had a couple hours together where we got to just sit and think about, what do we want to do next with this? We're getting all this
Yes.
information from women. We're hearing all of these stories. And our intention with Rebuild was never to just have it as a podcast. It was like the
Mm.
podcast was always going to be a catalyst for more or for something else. And so during that time that we were together, we went down to the bar, we got a glass of wine, and we just started kind of spitballing ideas of like, what do we want this to be? What do we see? What do we feel are the key themes? What is a rebuild? Can we even define that for people? And I think we came up with some pretty good kind of thoughts and assumptions, directions that we wanted to go with the rebuild.
Yes, yes. After we recorded the episode, we immediately went down to the bar in the hotel and ordered a glass of wine. And that's when things really started to flow naturally. But I think we were building off of what we've been hearing about, like, first of all, a lot of women finding new spaces in their careers where they've maybe been laid off or they're not fulfilled. Career is taking over in ways they never expected. They don't have time for themselves. And so we're hearing like a lot of women being more curious about how we've done it and what were the key parts of it and how do you navigate that. And I think for like we've had each other, but we want women to be supported as they go through a pivot or a rebuild. We want them to have community. We want them to have the tools and skills that they need to move through this to really take like this part of their life and their career to the next level, and to also see the possibilities too, that this is not a death sentence. This does not mean your career is over, but it's actually a gift that's been given to you. And we want, in order to move towards that possibility, like that's the energy and support that you really need.
hmm And I think one of the things that we chatted about was actually you and I, as Carmen and Beth, define what we mean by a rebuild. And are there
Mhm.
phases of a rebuild that we're seeing we keep seeing women kind of take these same steps or go through these same emotions? And one of the things this week, based on our episode last week, I had a woman reach out to me and she said, "Your episode was so timely. I just got laid off and I kept reminding myself after listening to your episode, I did nothing wrong. It was a restructuring. I did nothing wrong. It wasn't me." And she
Yeah.
goes, "I'm working through this now, listening to the podcast. It's just helping me." I had another woman I had lunch with who said, like, this podcast has gotten her through really difficult times in her career transition in the last year, and that she actually would wake up in the middle of the night with so much anxiety, put her AirPods in, and listen to an episode and like remind herself of like, no, this is okay. This is normal. And so when we were thinking about can we define it, we both kind of had this thought at the exact same time and almost said it at the exact same time where we said, going through a rebuild is like going through grief. It's going through that like denial. It's going through those feelings of anger. It's going through that
Mhm.
sadness. It's getting to that part of acceptance. Like those stages of grief we see in a very similar way when we talk about a rebuild. And so I am pretty excited to be able to work with you in our own kind of definition of building something for women that will help kind of identify those phases, identify when you're in those moments of confusion because everything's just happened and everything's kind of just
Mhm.
turning upside down and you don't have that clarity, being able to provide some sort of tool or something that women can actually use and access and look at, okay, I just need to take a breath and there are steps to this and there are phases and I'm going to get through this and I'm going to come out better for it. And I think you and I creating that is going to be something really special and very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. What getting back to what you were saying is when we started this podcast, we kind of as it evolved, we started to realize it's turning into something more. People it's resonating with people and, what does that gonna mean? Is it gonna be like live events? What is that? So what we've come to is we're going to be creating experiences for women to work with us in real time and to look at the questions, ask us questions on like how we've done it, but really also be able to coach and teach like the specific elements of a rebuild and the tools that you need and the skills as well as coaching support and community of other women.
Mhm.
So that's what we're looking at launching in January, and I'm so excited for this.
We have always wanted this reach to be as far and wide as possible. And being able to have different methods and modes for women to interact with us, whether it just be listening to episodes or whether it be coming to one of these experiences that we're going to be developing, it just gives you the opportunity again to not feel isolated and not feel so alone because again it's the thing that I've had so many conversations about even since last week, that it just comes up with women just feeling that shame, feeling that
Yeah.
embarrassment, feeling that hard of like, I can't believe I'm here. I can't tell anyone I'm here. I can't tell anyone that this happened. And that woman actually who I was speaking to, who talked about listening to our episodes in the middle of the night, that's what she said. She said, she's gone through the mining cycle a couple times in the mining industry and she's been terminated and she's been made redundant and all of these sorts of things. And she said if she didn't have like the one person in her life that helped support her get through that, she said it's one of the most isolating feelings you could possibly think of. And I think regardless of the industry you're in, that's what happens when your career kind of gets taken from you or something
Mhm.
happens to you that was out of your control and was kind of thrust on you. And so we want to make sure that as we're building this platform out and we're really leveraging our own experience and our own areas of expertise, that we are giving women really tangible, hands-on support to say, you're not alone. This is not your fault. You're going to be okay. In fact, you're going to thrive once we get through this,
Mm.
but we've got to go through it. And so we're going to go together. I think that's a really important thing when it comes to rebuilding or it comes to like the next chapter is you don't really get to skip the emotional parts. Like you have to feel
Yeah.
have to go through the hard. It has to suck. It has to hurt,
Yeah.
but you don't have to stay there and you don't have to let that
Yep.
define what's going to happen
Yeah.
next. And having people to be like, yeah, okay, let's do this together is just such a better way to do it than trying to do it alone.
I think that's such a tragedy is that, okay, if this is something that happens often and it's not personal, but it creates so much, and it, men don't tend to feel this. Like it is women that feel this the most, but you do feel alone and you do feel isolated and you do have to walk through it. But the sooner that we can sort of let go of the shame and share the experiences and just decide that it's not something that's personal, then that's when like the healing can start and then the dreaming and building the possibility. Like, I remember just feeling like that for so long. Like, am I the only one going through this? Why is this happening to me? Da 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 da. But it only took like one quick shift, and that was like normalizing, somebody normalizing what was happening,
Yeah.
and that I no longer had a future there. And you have choices where it completely shifted everything for me. And I want other women to feel that too, that they don't have to hold on to the old way of trying to be perfect, the old way of trying to be the best employee, the old way of like, I'm going to climb the ladder in this one company when it's in an industry where, unfortunately, when things are not going well, when they're really down and it's ruthless. You
Yeah.
will get cut, you will be undermined, you will be backstabbed, and you have choices. There's a reason why you got there. You're ambitious,
Yeah.
and if you bring that to the table, like the possibilities truly are endless.
Mhm. It's one of the ways that I think you and I also work so well together is because you are so good at leading that process for women to go through that exactly what you just said, to get to that shift, to look at like what's holding them back, why aren't they believing these things about themselves? And you're so good at building that path for them and asking those questions and putting in that work. And then I think what I'm really good at is I'm really good at getting people to dream big and I'm really good at building that confidence. And I'm really good at saying, no, you actually can do whatever you want. And we have such a good, like rhythm between us and
Yeah.
like the expertise and where our own strengths are between you and I, that us coming together, I think is just a bit of like a superpower in this sort of way to be able to then offer this type of programming and support to women because the conversation I actually just had before jumping on here to record was with another woman. And she asked me a question. She said, do you think that it's just that women have the system working against us, that we're not kind of moving forward or that we're seeing things happen to women more actively? Or do we also have a role to play in that because we're not saying yes to opportunities because we don't have the confidence or because we're still stuck? And like, if we don't hit 10 out of 10, then we're not going to put our name forward. And she gave an example of a board role that a woman had in front of her that was like offered of here is a board role. Will you take it? And the woman said no because she felt like she only had like 8 out of the 10 requirements met and she didn't feel like she could do it if she didn't have all 10. And so she walked away from it. And I think that that piece really plays into that confidence and really plays into that feeling like you can be bold and can take ownership over what your next
Mhm.
direction is, feeling like you get to make those decisions. You are the one that gets to write your story. It's not up to others to decide when and how you show up or what's next. And that comes, I think, when you get hit by these hard situations And when your careers hit in different ways, that starts to chip away at your confidence, starts to chip away
Mhm.
at things that you believe that you can do. You start kind of getting those internal voices start speaking and start getting louder. And you need to have the space to be able to quiet that so that you can
Mhm.
get through it and also then build on your confidence, build on what you know is true and not kind of be held back by your own limiting beliefs of where you think you can go next. And
Mm.
that's really hard to do, again, without people around you to help kind of hold your hand and help bring you
Yeah.
through these moments.
I would say it's both. Is it the systems? Yes. And is it women who maybe don't have the confidence? Um, it's the systems in that, okay, I'll give you an example. I was offered a huge role a few years ago and I turned it down because it's a different story when the family relocates for the woman's job. It
Mhm.
just is because I would be going into this new role where I'd be traveling 60% of the time. I'm still the key decision maker in my family and the key care provider, no matter how much my husband, steps up and does so much too. But I really still am that person. The unknown, plus there was inflexibility on their part to for me to work remotely, for example,
Mhm.
or for me to try out how would it work if I worked there for like 6 months and we just see how like it's like jumping into a blind date, a full-on relationship after a blind date.
Yeah.
And like so that's like the system isn't bending to if you really do want to hire more women, more senior women into senior roles, you have to look at all of these. It just is the reality. Women are different than men.
Yeah.
And so like we see this like companies saying they want to hire more women, but really what does that look like and what does that mean? And are you willing to look at what those barriers would be from women to being able to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think about last week, or maybe it was the week before, when I sent you that message of everything that I had done on the day, and it was just a crazy day because there was
Yeah.
documents and for me and for my kids and this and that, and
And more progressive too.
and we're
We're like pretty
progressive. Well,
progressive.
and your response was, "And you did it without needing to ask your husband where the doctor's office was," or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It like, yes, and I shared that last night. I was with a group of women at this, fundraiser here in town, and we were talking about parenting, and I shared that, and I said,
Yeah.
"That's the difference," because we all were talking about, like, how active our husbands and partners are in parenting and all that sort of thing, which is all very true, but it is. It's like I still do the doctor's appointments. I still do, like, all of the
Yeah.
decisions. I, like, handle the finances. I make sure bills are paid. I do, like,
Yeah.
all of these things on top of then having a career and building my company
Yeah.
and starting new companies and doing all of these sorts of things. And it is, like, just a very different reality for women. And for women, again, when you are in transition or you're in flux, you're not just thinking about, "How do I just do my next job well?" It's like,
Yes.
"How is job going to fit in with the 1,200 other things I also need to do in the day and that I'm responsible for, that is the invisible work that we all talk about, and it's all of these other preconceived hours, and so it's not simple decisions, it's not just yes or no's, or it's not things
Yes.
like that, they're complex and they're layered, and, uh, they need to be respected as that,
Yeah.
in the workforce.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is we just say, fuck it. I'm going to build my own thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly it, and it's what we see more and more, again, women doing because it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, a new workforce is being built because the old one no longer is serving us, and it's not working. It's not
Mm.
working for everyone, and
Mhm.
I think it's exciting. It's scary, it's unknown, there's a lot of discourse with it. It's painful when change
Mhm.
happens, it's hard when change happens, but I also think it's just really exciting. Like, I always go back to the point of, like, we're at such an awesome part of history where we as women just have more space than we've ever had before. It's attached
Mhm.
to the wealth piece of going to be having more wealth than ever, like control of wealth more than we've ever had before. We are in the workforce more than we ever have been before. We have women, like we're just here, and I feel like we're at this kind of catalytic moment where it's like a movement or something is happening that is going to shift how things are working, and then bring in all of the other layers of AI and just digital workforce and
Mhm.
geopolitics and all of these sorts of things. But we as women are getting a loud enough voice and having enough say that it's not going to stay the same. It can't stay the same.
No, no,
That's going to be a transition, and it's going to be different on how that all
yeah,
shakes out, and it's not going to necessarily be all pretty and rainbows and sunshine. But I think the end result that we are going to be getting to, or the new that we're going to see, that's what really excites me to
yes,
see what we're going to be able to achieve once we get across to that next phase. But we got to make sure that we're really supporting each other through that, and really like kind of standing firm in what we know we want and what we know is good for us in order to get to that spot.
in order to change the systems and in order to create new possibilities and in order for us to grow, we need to create those spaces, those rooms to put ourselves in, those situations where we have the support. Like, there's no way I could have done what I've done without the coaching, without putting myself in the rooms, without learning the skills, without being able to ask people questions who've done it before I've done it and not ask my husband's opinion, bless him. But when I started, he was like, "You're going to have to find the job, the stable job, because you're the stable income kind of thing." Like I needed to actually put myself in the room. Am I paused?
No, no, no.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I just, it looked like I was paused. But yeah, you need to like be able to put yourselves in the rooms where you're going to get that support, where you're going to have the network in order to be able to grow and create the next thing that you're meant to create.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's exactly why we had the conversation about where does this podcast go from here, and what
Mhm.
does the Rebuild brand do? Because that's what we want to help women get to in these experiences. And we're looking at possibly doing something in late January. We're going to be kind of feeding more information as we're creating it. I think, as you said just a few minutes ago, like we record these in real time, we get real information out, we share what we're doing and what we're working on. So, one of the things that we really want to be doing is creating those spaces and experiences for women to work with you and I and really dive into what's next for them. And I think we both have the goal and ambition to do something in January. So it's kind of like stay tuned and keep listening, because we certainly will be opening it up to our listeners first and people within our community to have access to come and participate in what this rebuild experience could be together.
Absolutely. So this is your teaser, but we also want to hear from you if this has been resonating with you. What questions do you have? What do you want to hear more of? Yeah, let us know what has been really resonating and what feels true and really clicks right now. And we will definitely incorporate that into not just our content and our episodes, but also any of these experiences that we put together.
Yeah. I'm really excited for this next phase. Think it's all kind of happening at the right time. We've always known it was going to be more than a podcast, and it was just the timing that we were kind of waiting for. And it feels really right, and especially with what we are hearing and the feedback we're getting, I do think that this first experience that we're going to be able to build for women is going to be something pretty special. And I look forward to kind of seeing who puts themselves in that room, because that's what it's all about, is putting themselves in that room.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that that is it for us for this week. We just wanted to share what's next for us and for the rebuilds. But we will hopefully be back again next week with another episode, and maybe even some more information about what you can look forward to for January.
Talk to you then.
See you later.
If this podcast resonates with you, it would mean so much to us if you could take 30 seconds to follow or subscribe to The Rebuild. This will make sure that you never miss an episode. Just go to the Rebuild Show page on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts and just tap the plus sign on the right-hand corner or click follow. This is super important to our podcast.
While you're there, if you'd be willing to leave us a 5-star review and share an episode you love with a friend, we would be incredibly grateful. We love you and appreciate you very much.